What's up, people? It's another edition of the New Breed Podcast, the world's best new metal podcast from two dudes who were really there. And yeah, I said it. I'm not taking it back. One half of your hosting duo. I'm Jay Horskow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious TIM Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how's it going?
Great. Back to t-shirts for the time being.
Right. T-shirts and shorts for now. Don't let the fact that I have a flannel on dissuade you. I'm currently rocking a pair of Life's Question Moss shorts,
Hell yeah.
but it's cold in the basement. So here we are. What are we doing this week, everybody? So Tim and I have been doing a lot of deep dives on a lot of different things lately. We've covered a whole bunch of different topics. We're going to continue the trend. So again, hop into the YouTube comments if you like this, if you don't like this, you want to see something different. But until we hear otherwise, it's the path we're taking. And this week, we're going to talk about an analysis. We've done an analysis of the prevalence of song covers in the new metal era, 97 to 2004. And what we're really going to talk about is if we think back in the turn of the century, new metal was the ascendant. It was the ascendant genre. It was commercially dominant. It was all over TRL. It was all over pop culture. Ozfest was the thing. Gadzooks, Hot Topic. They were the places to go in the mall. That this was a huge, huge cultural movement. And central to this movement was the utilization of cover songs. And if you think about it, before I say it's not just any cover songs. It really was covers from the 80s. A lot of pop and a lot of new wave. And if you think about it, that juxtaposition was so different that allowed these bands to honestly, Tim, if you think about it, it was kind of a gateway mechanism, right? Because it allowed these bands to get ears on their stuff and from a genre that is traditionally confrontational and abrasive and drop tunes and aggressive, that this got them past the traditional gatekeeping barrier that kept these bands off the radio, off MTV, out of the zeitgeist, and it allowed them to just basically put it straight into the veins of MTV's TRL.
And
Kind
it
of cool.
worked.
It absolutely worked. And so this episode, we're going to talk about how important these covers were not only to new metal but to the bands that they impacted, these covers actually acted as a catalyst to drive the trajectory of some of these bands' careers. But it also, if you look at the covers, who was covering what, much like Tim and I think in a previous episode, I forgot what we just talked about. It You can chart the peak and then you can chart the descent, right? You can do that truly just using the prevalence of covers in new metal. So let's start with we got to do a little bit of history, Tim. We do this every time we do one of these episodes. In the 90s, mid 90s, the Pacific Northwest grunge sound was the sound. It was Nirvana, it was Soundgarden, it was Alice in Chains, it was Stone Temple Pilots. And one of the appeals to that genre was not only was it kind of abrasive, and it was culturally odd, but there was an appeal to the outsider that especially Kurt Cobain represented. He's a person who he always acted like he didn't want to be there, right? And being made famous was just a side effect of him being an artist. And this was a big part of the appeal of the grunge movement. I don't think new metal planned to displace grunge. It just all kind of happened at once. Kurt Cobain kills himself. Korn releases their debut album. Russ Robinson gets notoriety. We're off to the races. And at that point, in that interstitial between grunge going the way of the dodo and new metal standing up, they were looking for boy bands, right? Boy bands were kind of a thing, kind of terrible, but here we are. And into that void where the labels and the labels and MTV and everybody are trying to figure out what's going to be the next big thing, you have this inherently abrasive new metal, right? 7-string drop guitars, turntables, screaming during the verse, whispering or singing during the chorus. Very, very different. Top 40 radio had no idea what to do with it. They had absolutely no idea what to do with it. And I actually think there's an industrial designer, Tim, by the name of Raymond Loewy, and his stuff actually shows up in the MoMA. And he did like the Pan Am logo. He designed Air Force One. He did a whole bunch of different corporate logos. And one of the things the term he used was when you do a design, it needs to be the Maya principle, MAYA, which is most advanced yet acceptable.
Okay.
Meaning you had to get things outside of the zone but not so far that people look at it like, ugh. What is this? It can't be unfamiliar. That was his hint to his design. By the way, if anybody in the tri-state area is listening and you've never been to the Museum of Modern Art in New York, take the fucking day trip. It is awesome. It's awesome. But anyway, his idea of the most advanced yet acceptable, if you put that, Tim, in relation to what new metal bands were doing with their 80s covers, that's the equivalent of advanced yet acceptable. It's melodically familiar. They always played. They weren't covering B-sides by the Bangles, right? These were
Yeah.
all very popular songs that you would recognize, but they just had a an abrasive edge to them. And these bands, to their own credit, right? All these bands that did covers, whether you got big off a cover, whatever, we're not casting shade here. The fact that you were able to leverage that nostalgia, throw an aggressive hook on it, and say, "Hey, I'm gonna get my shit out there in front of a wider audience." And people went for it. When you think about the kind of how these covers fit into like buckets, I think there's four buckets, Tim. You tell me what you if you agree. So the first bucket that cut new metal covers fell into was what you could basically call gateway covers. So this is a band trying to use a cover to gain acceptance, break through to the mainstream, get airplay, get coverage, get on MTV. Best two examples, I think you would agree: Faith by Limp Bizkit and Blue Monday by Orgy. And
100%.
this is you're appealing to MTV and you're appealing to basically modern rock radio. I think the next bucket is what we could call the novelty bucket, right? And this is novelty but homage in the sense of uh, you're basically almost doing a parody of the initial song, but you're doing it in a way which it's fun and it's kind of irreverent, but it's interesting and makes you want to listen. The best example for this is Alien Ant Farm's Smooth Criminal.
Mm.
By the way, if there's someone that wants to come on and defend the Alien Ant Farm album, in our In Defense sub series, we just recorded one. Uh, please let us know. Back to this. We got gateway covers. We have novelty homage. Next is something like I think the way to think about it would be a legacy preservation cover, and this is a band that's established. The genre is kind of going in different ways. This is your late stage covers. These are things like Word Up by Korn or Land of Confusion by Disturbed. This is where the genre is going away a certain way, not away, but a certain way, and you want to maintain relevance and you want to appeal again, hitting the nostalgia button. And the next example, I think that just think Deftones, everybody, just think Deftones. So this is the bucket we're going to call this is artistic depth. Right. And this is a band recording something which defies the genre that they're currently in, gives them a little bit of street cred, shows how weird their influences may or may be. No Ordinary Love by Sade, the
That's a,
Deftones covered.
I love that.
That whole B-Sides Rarities covers album is fantastic. Depeche Mode, right? All those covers. But then you also had Fear Factory covering Cars, which truthfully, if you listen to Fear Factory's music, the idea of them being influenced by Gary Newman is not really a stretch of the imagination. Not at all. So do you agree so far, Tim? They
I
all
do.
basically fall into four buckets, and I think we probably get at the end sit here with all. I have a whole list of covers that were done in the New Metal era. We could sit there and try and figure out which bucket they fall into. It might be an interesting, or a
Absolutely.
challenge to the listeners and watchers. Tell me when we go through this list where these actually fall. We're going to walk through now some of the more well-known covers, and we're also going to call out some of the obscure ones, mainly through the guise of studying what they did to that band's popularity and trajectory. And we're going to start with the mother of all covers, drum roll everybody, George Michael's Faith by Limp Bizkit. We're going to take ourselves back to 97. Limp Bizkit's a quasi-obscure band, Jacksonville, Florida. Korn knows who they are. Ross Robinson does their debut. They open for the Deftones. I think it's the first leg of the Around the Fur tour. They're signed to Flip Interscope, so they've got some momentum, but they weren't really gaining any traction. They weren't really breaking out of the underground. They were in respected circles. They were respected, but they didn't have that mass commercial appeal. And along comes Faith, right? Apparently, Ross Robinson was resistant. He didn't want to do this song. He said it was a gimmick and he thought it would undermine their image. I found that quote. But Fred Durst was the one who said, "Nah, man, we have to put this on here. Whenever we do it live, the audience goes nuts, and it is a reliable closer for our shows." By the way, I just came across a bootleg it's a Limp Bizkit live bootleg from their first sold out show. Where, Tim, you might ask, where was Limp Bizkit's first sold out headlining show?
Philly.
No more scenic place than Rochester, New York.
Wow.
Our buddy Cleary didn't get to go because he was grounded. Man, I feel old. Anyway, so they put this song out. What happens? Let's comparatively let's look at chart sales, chart peaks, album sales. Before Faith, this album did not chart. $3 Bill Yard did not chart. They had minimal album sales. They were the local opener, right? That's kind of what they were. Post Faith, immediately after the release of Faith as a single, they go up to number 28. $3 Bill Yard goes up to number 28 on the alternative airplay chart. It shifts 2 million units, right? Which is double platinum. Yes, Tim? Yes, platinum is a million.
Is it?
Yes, because gold is 500,000.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Uh, it and the long and also Limp Bizkit now ends up, they're on TRL all the time. Fred Durst is like kind of a regular. They show up on Conan O'Brien. The long term result of this, uh, Significant Other climbs to number one on the Billboard 200, their follow up album. Significant Other moves 7.2 million records. So 2 million off the first, 7.2 off the second. So they tripled it.
Damn.
And they now end up as a global phenomenon. They're headlining Woodstock 99. The cover for them put them smack dab middle ground zero of nu metal. They were on Ozfest 98, right? It kickstarted all that noise around Limp Bizkit, and it didn't hurt that George Michael was arrested in April of '98. Didn't hurt. No, all publicity is good publicity. Oh, excuse me. But this is the first band that uses that serves as an example of using a cover to get big. And you know what, Tim? Now that I've said it, we probably should go back even further because I think it's not nu metal, but it's nu metal adjacent. Marilyn Manson with the Eurythmics cover of Sweet Dreams in 1995.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
blew them, I mean, nu metal adjacent, that blew them right into the mainstream. That
Absolutely.
video was inescapable on MTV.
Huge. Yeah.
So while not a nu metal band, you can see it furthers Tim and I's argument, everybody, that covers can really break you into the room.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely not a new metal, but like that was huge. I mean, that was like you said, inescapable. It was everywhere.
It was literally everywhere. You couldn't walk past Hot Topic without hearing it. Everybody had a Marilyn Manson T-shirt. I'm a big fan of that original like Willy Wonka-ish logo. I still think that was their coolest logo. But yeah,
What's
yeah,
that? All
another example.
smells like children.
Yes.
Which is when you think about it, the one of the weirdest, I don't like that title at all.
I mean, they were transgressive before transgressive was a thing. And have you ever gone back and listened to Portrait of American Family?
Oh fuck
It
yeah,
actually holds up pretty good.
that's a great record.
Yeah, the guitar work is the one that steps out to me. Anyway, Limp Bizkit, Marilyn Manson, they break into the mainstream with Faith. Limp Bizkit used that song. They were recording a very unique, aggressive demographic. Going the other way, you have another band called Orgy, and they used the cover to appeal to, I guess, industrial rock or quote unquote. I saw the term used, cyber goth. So Orgy is signed to the first act on Chord's Elementary Records imprint, right, which I think was Interscope. Their 98 debut album, Candy Ass, became a big seller because they covered New Order's Blue Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and you listen to the original and you listen to the cover, at some points it's hard to tell the difference because they do it so well. However, I think that cover perfectly bridges the 80s new wave and 90s industrial. Like it ties them together very, very well. And they kept the synth rhythm, right? That's the big thing. They kept the most recognizable part of that song was this is the synth rhythms. And they also
Oh,
added some chunk guitars to it.
the electric drums didn't hurt.
Nope, nope. And the chorus that's over emoted, right? Oh, and not over sang, but over emoted. That that creates a song that is still danceable, right? You can still dance that. I may or may not have been in a strip club where a stripper has danced to that, may or may not. Uh, but it was still heavy. I mean, it was heavy enough for Ozfest and Family Values, the Family Values tour. B. So what does Blue Monday do for Orgy, Tim? Billboard Hot 100. It peaks at 56. It spends 10 weeks on the chart.
God
It
damn.
peaks at number 2 on the Hot Dance Club play. It peaks at number 4 on alternative airplay. It peaks at number 18 on mainstream rock. So obviously, this song worked for them. At the end of the day, Candy Ass goes on to sell almost 2 million, just shy of 2 million copies. The movie shows up on the Not Another Teen Movie soundtrack. Uh, the one thing, though, that I'm going to offer as an aside or as a counterpoint to this is Orgy can be looked at as a quasi cautionary tale about what happens when you lead with the cover. Because Blue Monday made them a household name. Man, I gotta start getting more sleep or start doing more cocaine. Blue Monday made them a household name, but the band struggled to follow that up with their original stuff. It just didn't resonate because everybody wanted to hear, we want to hear the cover, we want to hear the cover. You know what? We should probably do a show on bands that have that one banger single and they struggle, they live in its shadow eternally after. Perfect example, Crazy Town, right?
Yeah.
And Butterfly. And they put out Candy Ass. It goes to sell almost south of 2 million copies. They're doing fantastic. The second album, The Vapor Transmission, comes out in 2000. Now, granted, they were also a victim of circumstance. At this point, the nu metal trend had peaked and it was starting to its descent. So, I mean, they kind of got screwed in that regard. But it also shows you the danger of leading with a cover first. All right, Tim. Now we're going to talk about the cover that was probably the most viral, and I'm going to try and get through this quickly because it gives both you and I hives to talk about it. The best example of a nu metal cover that achieves global dominance. It's 2001. Alien Ant Farm covers Smooth Criminal, and again, this
Oh
goes back to
God.
that what was the bucket? What do I call that bucket? Novelty homage. So they're not aggressive like Limp Bizkit. They're not industrial like Orgy. It was all tongue in cheek humor. This is a 4-piece based out of Riverside, California. Apparently, they've been performing the song live since their early days. They became friends with Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach, which led them to a major label deal with DreamWorks SKG. They did not want to release Smooth Criminal first, and they didn't. People forget this. They released that song Movies as the lead-off single. However, the highest that got was number 53 in the UK. That's the high watermark of that. Funnily enough, a New York radio station by the name of WXRK. That's not K Rock. No, it's across the country. They started getting constant requests for the cover for Smooth Criminal, Smooth Criminal, Smooth Criminal, to the point where they started playing it. And this then became one of the hottest songs on the planet. And to back that up, in Australia, it reaches number 1, 8 weeks at the top. UK reaches number 3, certified platinum. It re-released Movies after the success of Smooth Criminal. They re-released the original single, which goes up to top 5. On the modern rock charts, it hits number 1. That album that it's off of, Anthology, goes all the way up to number 11 on the Billboard 200. God, this is terrible. Whatever. New Zealand, it reaches number 4. This helps them sell over 1 million copies of their debut album. The curse of the cover then kicks in. Truant and Up in the Attic, 2003 and 2006, respectively, do not sell at the same volume that this one did. Again, we're also coming at the bottom of the nu metal cycle. And as nu metal slips out of the mainstream, it took a lot of, I would argue, chuff with it, and this was one of the bands it took with them. All right,
Yeah.
I gotta take a sip here because I've been talking a lot.
I don't know how you do it, man.
I spend 8 hours a day talking, and then we get on the show, and I keep talking, and then I go upstairs. I'm like, I don't want to hear my own voice. Like, just go to bed. Put on dragged into sunlight, just fall asleep to that. Let's talk about retrospective success and that whole, hey, we want to put a single out to show we're still relevant. And the band that do this is Korn. By 2004, new metal was on its way out, where it's basically had hit almost rock bottom, if not at rock bottom. Bands like Korn, Limp Bizkit, Stained, Linkin Park, we're trying to figure out how do we stay relevant when we were just at the top of the world, and now we're not anymore. Pop punk, things like Blink-182, garbage, and emo start to dominate TRL, and they're like, well, hey, how do we get back into the zeitgeist? How do we get back into the conversation? So they released their greatest hits volume one compilation, and they covered Cameo's Word Up, which was originally recorded in 86. So this is an old pop song. Jonathan Davis gets all sorts of kudos if you look at the reviews at the time, where his vocal delivery was restrained. He wasn't full Jonathan Davis, which apparently worked. It was a mainstay on alternative radio. The greatest hits compilation debuted at Billboard number 4 in a
Damn.
Billboard 200. It peaked at 4. It went platinum, so 1 million copies sold. The key single was Word Up. In the UK, it reached number 10, the rock chart. See You on the Other Side is the album that came out right after the fact in 2005. This reaches number 3 on the Billboard chart. It goes platinum. The key single for this was, you remember Twisted Transistor? No, Tim and I don't remember Twisted Transistor because we refuse to acknowledge any of the Korn catalog past Follow the Leader. Moving along. The band also covered, what's the other band that Korn covered? I kind of just gave it away.
Shit, I can't even remember.
Pink Floyd,
Oh, another brick in the wall.
another brick in the wall. There was one critic that called it, quote, one of the worst covers of a classic rock song of all time, unquote, using it as a, quote, cheap excuse to cover an angry song in a plain manner, unquote. So this is where the knives are out for new metal. Korn did themselves no favors. And for a song like that, you know who we got to get on the show? We got to get Rob Wharton on the show because I have all these ideas for covers in my head of shit that is so insane pop music. And I'm not talking like Dua Lipa. I'm talking like there are pop songs that I think, or maybe you and I, Tim, we could sit down with a fucking drum machine. I'll come over to the house one weekend when the girlfriend's away. We'll get drunk and we'll just record shitty covers. I guarantee you
It's
we can
easy.
turn Harry Nilsson's Without You, and there's a couple other songs I got in my head. We could do double time shit and really have fun with it. I am
Hell yeah.
convinced. I am waiting for, I don't know, Signs of the Swarm to lead with a cover of like, Jolene or something by Dolly Parton. Get weird with it. Get weird with it. It works. It works. Speaking of bands that work, we're not a fan of this band, but we have to give credit where credit is due. One of the few bands that transitioned from new metal into long-term radio rock success was Disturbed, and part of that was not for nothing, as cheesy as David Draymond may come across. The guy can actually sing. He can
It's not
actually
bad.
sing. He's got a voice. So on their 2000 debut, The Sickness, they covered Tears for Fears Shout. They called it Shout 2000. And this is right when 80s pop nostalgia is making a resurgence. And they threw it together, and it's fun, kind of works. However, they did it again in 2005 as new metal is fizzled out. They cover Land of Confusion by Genesis on their album that came out that year, 10,000 Fists. This song, I can't believe this. So this song goes to number 1 on the mainstream rock chart. The Sickness went 5-time platinum with a cover of Shout 2000. 10,000 Fists was the album they did in 2005, Tim. It goes platinum. Land of Confusion is their cover. The next time they do a cover that jumps out is Immortalized is the album in 2015. They covered The Sound of Silence,
Oh
and it
shit, yeah,
goes
they did.
platinum. That song went number 1. It went number 42 on the Hot 100. Uh, the I did read a reviewer at the time who said The career trajectory of Disturbed indicates that covers were used while covers were used as bait during the new metal years. They eventually became a core part of their identity. They definitely were bait. If you're doing a cover every album, they're doing bait. And I just thought of another cover that's not on this list that we're going to talk about.
I hope it's not what I'm thinking.
What do you think?
Is it well, they're not new metal, but they're I guess you could say they're kinda people would say. It's not gonna be Five Finger, is it?
No, no, we're not going anywhere near Five Finger Death Punch.
Okay.
I was actually thinking of in my list. I didn't write down Machine Head, Message in a Bottle,
Oh yeah, there you go.
which isn't bad, but it's from their. It's they're not new metal. It's from their new metal phase. So when we go back to remember the buckets, Tim, when we talked about the bucket for artistic depth, the band that we I named is the Deftones, and the Deftones, where other bands are using these songs to break into the mainstream to get themselves popularity to lead as a lead off single, they were using it to say, "Hey, we like some really weird shit." And famously, if anybody reads anything about the Deftones and how they collaborate, Stephen Carpenter and Chino Moreno are basically oil and water, a lot like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. They are totally different personalities, but it just happens to work when they get together. And Chino is into that like 80s and vocal stuff, and Stefan likes Meshuggah. Go figure. Their cover of Sade's No Ordinary Love, which was initially a B-side on the 2000 single Change in the House of Flies, is I read one review where it said this is the gold standard for new metal reinterpretations. If I didn't tell you if I didn't tell my wife that was Chino Moreno, she would go, "Why does this Sade version sound a little weird?" But he kills it. He kills it.
I think that's one of my favorite covers of all time, and it's not just because it's Deftones. It's just that's just a great, and like you said, the interpretation of it is great. It
Yes.
works. It sounds great. I mean, dude, we used to play that at the bar all the fucking time. Probably every shift I worked there, somebody put that on the
It's
jukebox.
it's a great song. And considering the last episode we recorded was an episode on Vanilla Ice who covered his own song, I think this episode is apropos. The Deftones cover Sade, they covered Depeche Mode, they covered The Cure. That showed that they were more than just a new metal band. So while their contemporaries were either fizzling out or going into different directions, they leaned into their arty sound and they produced the White Pony in 2000, which many people think is the best album they've ever released. When you look at if you take a moment to look at the Around the Fur, White Pony, and then their B-sides, Rarities, and where those albums went, they definitely helped build the Deftones into the band that they have now become. I think the band will admit that the self-titled album was not as successful for them. They're not as big fans of it. And then culminating in Saturday Night Wrist, where Chino has obviously admitted that he had a lot of drug problems at the time the band was not getting along. But then they come out with Diamond Eyes and Koi no Yoken, and they go on a tear. Around the Fur ends up peaking at number 29 on the Billboard 200, goes platinum. White Pony peaks at number 3. So we went from 29 to 3. Uh, and then the B-Sides and Rarities album in 2005, it actually peaks at number 18 and goes gold.
Damn.
So, I mean, I don't, let me look that up real quick. What songs were on that?
The B sides. Ah,
Yes.
shit.
So the full track listing is it opens with a cover of Jawbox,
Yep.
Savory, Wax and Wayne by the Cocteau Twins, very much Chino,
Great
Simple
song.
Man by Leonard Skinner.
They listen. I hate that fucking song originally. They fucking killed that.
Oh, they kill it. I won't listen to the original. I'll listen to this one. Sinatra by Helmet, Sade's No Ordinary Love, uh, Black Moon. Well, no, that's a Deftones song. We also have The Cure, If Only Tonight We Could Sleep. The cover of Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want by the Smiths is perfect.
It's great.
Is perfect. And then you have The Chauffeur, which is Duran Duran.
I don't
They
remember
did,
what that sounds like.
and then they did, there was an extra track, Night Boat, which was a cover of Duran Duran.
Didn't they do Ghosts on didn't they do Ghost on that too? Who the hell sung that?
Ghost.
No, it's Ghosts. That might have been at the end of that might have been like a B-side on like Koi or something. Could have swore that
I
was a cover they did.
I don't I don't remember, but they also did a cover of, was it Enjoy the Silence?
No, I don't think they've done that.
They were on that for the masses, a tribute to Depeche Mode. And them and Failure for the masses. What did they do? Deftones did To Have and to Hold.
There you go.
You know what I was thinking of? Failure did Enjoy the Silence.
Oh, okay.
And then Locust did Master and Servant. God Lives Underwater did Fly on the Windscreen. Oh, that's I gotta go back and listen to this album. What a great album. I actually remember Failure, where Depeche Mode came out and said that Failure version was actually arguably better than their version. God bless Ken Andrews. But anyway, the thing about the Deftones, and I think we can all appreciate it now in the year of our Lord 2026, is they use the cover to build credibility, not commerciality. Right? They use it to build credibility. And I think that cred is what helped them survive when everything else fell apart, right? Like Coal Chamber and Crazy Town and all those bands that were big in the new metal era, they kind of just fell by the wayside. Deftones are still here. Still here. This huge. TikTok blew them up like you wouldn't believe.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's
It's
crazy that
insane.
you see a resurgence like that far into your career. Absolutely
Yeah.
crazy.
And I saw an interview with Chino where they asked him, like, what do you think about blowing up because of Cherry Waves on TikTok? And he's just like, I don't get it, but okay, I'll take it.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Shit, I mean, now they're playing arenas. God bless. God bless.
Hell yeah.
I think, Tim, we touched about this a little bit obliquely. While we're talking about covers, we have to talk about the importance of MTV and TRL and how big this was, where there's these people watching Total Request Live with Carson Daly, and you have these aggro bands coming on, which kind of balanced out the junk that Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera were doing at the time, right? There's this sugar sweet bubblegum pop, and then you've got Korn to follow the leader. Korn and Limp Bizkit were huge for anybody who remembers. If you don't remember TRL, if you weren't around at the time, they the the downside of that is metal got big, aggressive music gets popular, and then I saw a critic refer to the boy bandification of metal, where the most abrasive edges are shaved off and they're polished, and it's just meant as a flat out pimp to suburban teens. Like, hey, look, check this out, check this out. When you go back and look at what was big on TRL, Roland in 2000 off Chocolate Starfish, right? That was Chocolate Starfish, right? It wasn't, yeah, it was Chocolate Starfish. It wasn't Significant Other. That was the recurring number one. Smooth Criminal by Alien Inform was a top 10 viral video. Adam's song by Blink-182 got pop punk. That was the first big number one in 2001 that displaced as new metal. And then right on the back of that, you have Good Charlotte with the anthem. That was number one for 4 months straight.
That's a good
So
track.
pop punk and emo have at this point completely displaced new metal. By 2003, they've kind of just pushed it up to the side. And yeah, there was still a base for it, but it was smaller and less vocal and more underground.
I looked it up real quick. Deftones on the covers album, they did Ghosts. It's by a band called Japan.
Mm.
Japan, they were an English new wave band formed in 1974
Gotcha. Okay, now I remember that. What album did that show up on?
on the covers record.
Okay. Uh
Santo and Johnny Sleepwalk. I don't even remember that song. The
they
Cardigans.
I had an old Deftones B-sides and rarities demo where it was like demo versions of like Linus and some of that stuff, but they also covered Say It Ain't So. They cover South of Heaven.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Weezer makes sense. And Chino
Yeah.
really leaned into it. It was a wild recording. But yeah, it was them covering Weezer and the whole crowd was singing with them. It was great. Did you ever see that one video on YouTube, Tim, of them playing in the round somewhere in California?
No.
And it was a Deftones live show, and it was pro shot. And Jamie looked it up. I got to pull this up real quick. Deftones live in the round. Uh, I gotta find it, but it was a full set of them playing somewhere in California where it was recorded all the way around them, and it was awesome. Uh,
I gotta see
speaking of
that.
speaking of that, did you see that I found a live recording of Day in the Life?
Yeah, oh yeah, I seen you post that. Yeah.
Uh, Sam Hoyos, on the odd event that you're listening, please get George Reynolds in touch with us. We really want to talk about Day in the Life. Anyway, Tim, I think we're gonna let's talk about what happens with new metal. We talk about this a lot. We're gonna blast through it. Post 9/11, that negativity and anger, nobody had any stomach or heart for it, so it kind of pushes that genre out of the way. It starts feeling out of touch with what's actually going on in the world, and that gritty, aggressive, angry energy is replaced by this almost innocent and goofy energy of pop punk, or the simplicity of like the Strokes or the White Stripes or all that sort of stuff or junk. Also, in that point, you have a copy of a copy of a copy. Your third wave new metal is falling apart, and then you're moving towards Deftones move towards an arty more RT type of metal. Linkin Park moves towards hard rock, a little bit electronic. Disturbed, Papa Roach, Chevelle, they're going a hard rock route. So the sad remainder is bands like Limp Bizkit who stuck to that sound, and then their sales kind of fell out through the floor. And post 2003, Limp Bizkit stuck with that new metal sound, and they ended up with dwindling sales, and they broke up for a bit. Deftones go into this arty sound. They end up with this real critical acclaim, especially with Diamond Eyes. Linkin Park moves to electronics and hard rock, and they still are playing arenas. God bless them. Uh, Alien Ant Farm drops off a cliff, and nobody's paying attention. And then Disturbed stop playing new metal, just try to play more butt rock, right? K rock, thank you.
Butt
But they've
rock.
maintained constant popularity, and they still went platinum. The 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 impact of the covers, we talked about what it did for Limp Bizkit, we talked about what it did for Orgy, for Alien Farm. These covers moved units for them, for these bands. Uh, at this point, Tim, I think we should be talking about some of the other covers that were out there in the new metal canon that may not have even known, we might not have talked about. Some of these, when I was looking it up, I forgot they were even recorded. But
And I seen in the research that you did. I'm very happy that you put these in here because I'm looking at it and there's a lot of cool songs right here.
yeah, I mean, you know what? I am going to put a pin in this. Don't let me forget. I'm going to create on the New Breed Spotify account a playlist of just covers.
Oh, absolutely.
I will put that out there. So, who did we talk about?
Are you getting to the minor but impactful covers that you did?
Yes, yes, yes. Uh, by the way,
Can I say something first here?
yes, yes.
I know you're gonna shit on this, but I fucking love the Shock the Monkey cover.
Here's the thing. It works.
It worked.
It works. I mean, granted, so there was a conversation on our new metal the other day about what happened with Cold Chamber. How were they really that big? It was a new jack, and there was a couple of older heads, people in our age, talking like, yeah, as much as we'd like to revise history, they were never as big of a thing as you would think about it for the amount of influence they had. Like people always talk about them, and when you recall that Sharon Osbourne was their manager and she pushed the hell out of them. Right, she pushed the hell out of them. Ozzy's on this cover of Shock the Monkey. I think the drugs and the lineup changes is what got them. I really think that's what tore them apart. I don't think some of their personalities are probably the easiest people to deal with. Raina wants to start a family. Mikey was on drugs. Dez was difficult. I mean, I get it. I get it.
Well, didn't they only have the basis change though?
They had the basis change, but they had a lot of inner turmoil where they would break up and get back together and break up and get back together.
Oh
It was
yeah,
a
yeah.
constant running
They're
running
still
story.
breaking up and getting back together. It's fucking
Uh,
2026.
I think we talked about this previously. The reason why Cold Chamber opens for Pantera on the Trendkill tour is because of Sharon Osbourne. They replaced VOD.
Oh yeah,
VOD was
yeah,
supposed to be
yeah.
the opener on that tour. It would have been VOD, Machine Head, and Pantera, and I would have come home with no
That's
teeth.
sick.
And then VOD was going to open for Pantera on Tattoo the Earth in Europe, and then 9/11 happens, and VOD is one of those bands where it just never seemed to break the right way for them.
Yeah,
We talked about
which
Shock the
is
Monkey.
that tour would have been fucking huge for them.
Oh, would have been massive. Would have been massive. We talked about Shock the Monkey. We
Let's
talked
talk
about
about that real quick. Do you think
okay,
if they do the tour with Machine Head Pantera, the trajectory of that band completely changes?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, because this is the imprint. Was it imprint?
Yeah, because that's
No, it
when
wasn't
they
imprint. It was
did
self-titled.
is yeah, are you sure? Because they did the cover with Phil on Imprint, wasn't it? Or not the cover,
Yeah,
they did the song with Phil.
yeah. By the river.
Is that what it was?
Pantera, Trendkill, Tour, Cold Chamber, Machine Head. Let's see what year that was. That was 97. No, so it was
Damn.
before Imprint comes out.
Oh wow.
And oh, it would have changed their lives, right? Because there was, the knock on VOD was they were too metal for the hardcore kids, too hardcore for the metal kids. But I think some of the Pantera fans really would have dug that sound. Look at Machine Head. Machine Head goes off of, that's coming off of the More Things Change. Then they do the Burning Red and the Supercharger, but they must have had fans that were sticking around because then they do the Blackening and all the other stuff, and they got huge again.
Yeah.
So it definitely would have changed the trajectory of where VOD went. I think they probably still would have done Imprint. They still would have done For the Bleeders. Um,
Yeah, I don't think their sound changes. I just
no,
think that
no.
their fan base changes.
Yes, they would have had way more exposure and had way more eyes on them, ears on them, and they maybe would have blown up a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Definitely I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. Funnily enough, I came to learn doing that during my day in the life research that the guitarist for Day in the Life now plays the second guitar for VOD to replace Matt Baumbach.
Oh shit, okay.
Kind of wild. Do we want to talk about Cars with Gary Newman?
I you know what? I actually we don't have to, but I think that's a great cover.
It's a great cover. The story behind that is the label Roadrunner really pushed them to do it. They did it, and then they re-released. Was it Obsolete, right? As a digipack, with this was
Yeah.
included,
Yeah.
and it helped blow Obsolete up.
Then they put Where Evil Dwells and all that shit on it and
Hmm. Uh, and I actually, we should do, you know what? We should do an in defense of Digimortal because I would defend that album because I love that album.
oh, it's a great record. You don't have to defend
Another
that.
another cover that I didn't even know existed. You Spin Me Around by Dead or Alive
No, it's
by
by Dope.
Dope.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah,
did
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did not know that they covered that song.
Yeah. You know it's funny? The first three Dope records I actually really enjoy. I can get down on them. It's cheesy new metal stuff, but I actually like it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not something that I would seek out, but I don't change the channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next, we have Run Like Hell by Pink Floyd. Kitty covered in 2001.
Yeah.
You know what I just thought of that I also don't have on this list? Power Man 5000.
Oh, with
What was the name of that? I just had it.
yeah,
Relax.
well, I don't remember. I'm
I
not a
think it
fan
was
of that band.
I thought there's people right now yelling like, how do you guys not know this? Yo, we have so much new metal shit in our heads. Um, Power Man
Probably punching the screen with their
5000.
finger.
Relax. Yeah, relax, don't do it. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, it was relax. Okay. Uh
Was that them trying to get some notoriety?
well, it showed up on the Zoolander soundtrack, and I think this was before the second album. I think.
Oh,
I
okay.
think. I don't remember the timing, but I think it was before the second album. But yeah, that's actually a really, really good cover. Next, we have Rebel Yell by Drowning Pool. They did this in 2007 after the lineup change. Has anybody heard this song? Because I haven't.
I don't remember hearing this at all.
No, which means it's not memorable. Next, we have System of a Down with the Metro by the band Berlin.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sorry. I like when they do really weird shit, and to me, it kind of works. Another cover, 2004, Nonpoint, Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight. Another
Great,
really good cover.
very well done. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
still one of my favorite interviews is Elias from Nonpoint.
Oh, he was great to talk to. He was
Yeah,
an awesome dude. Next I have Tainted Love by Marilyn Manson covers it. It's a soft cell song. He
yeah,
releases that in 2001. I actually think it works
it's
because
not
his
bad.
voice is kind of like slutty and you know degenerate. It works. And lastly, another song I'd never heard until I did the research for this episode. Seal's "Crazy" was covered by Mushroom Head,
Yeah,
which
that's on the end of 13. Yeah,
uh kind of interesting.
I
Kind of interesting.
I I like the cover because I think 13 is one of the best records of new metal. So
Okay. Okay. Have we deep dive? We've done a deep dive on that, haven't we?
what on 13?
Yes.
No, but I would love to.
All right. So we got to, that's on the short list. Remind me, and I'll add that to my list of homework to do.
If you've never heard that record, it's funny because that record starts out, it's so non-traditional, like the way they start that record out. It just you press play and it just goes. It's like they started out the record with like a track three, and then as it goes, it's like, oh, there's should have been the intro song. It's like very weird how they like did the song listing on there, or what's that called again? The
Sequencing.
it's very weird how they did the sequencing, but it fucking works. I love that record.
All right. I will. I have never. I can't remember the last time I've heard it, soup to nuts. So I'll listen to it.
Yeah, it's
I just
great.
added it to the short list. So let's take this one home, Tim. If we think about the use of a cover by new metal bands, it was basically I think we can chalk it up to being a historical anomaly. This was a gateway. Trojan horse was the term I saw used, which I really liked. It was a Trojan horse for a subgenre seen as subversive to actually claw their way into the metal mainstream. Not only just metal, but the actual media mainstream and landscape at the time. And bands like Limp Bizkit, Alien A Farm made it work for themselves. And God bless those bands that found a way to make it work for them. However, there were some inherent risks. The curse of the cover. You look at Orgy, you look at Alien Ant Farm. They were defined by the cover, not defined in spite of. I think is the way I would put it. And if I'm gonna sum it up, I think that the importance of a new metal cover at that time it really ties into the it's almost a dichotomy, right? Because there's the catalyst for the covers served as a catalyst for the rise of new metal, almost meteoric rise of new metal. But at the same time, it turned into the anchor that dragged it back into what amounts to cultural obsolescence, right? Nobody was listening to it anymore. So God bless the bands that were able to use them successfully. Any band, anybody in a band still listening, do it. Do something against type, and people will pay attention. It's really kind of cool. And I think it's a unique the usage of a cover to break into the conversation is a unique artifact of a moment in time where these bands really leaned into it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think
Go
that
on.
to close it out with my opinion, I think that the whole usage of covers definitely proved its worth. Just from this episode, it definitely proves its worth. And I think if a lot of these bands don't do the covers, they don't have as many sales because you see as you went, okay, blah 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 does this cover, then all of a sudden their record's number two. Then blah 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 does this record, their record's number eight. And it's like, okay, if you don't do these cover songs, do these bands even come close to them record sales?
Exactly. Exactly.
But
And I don't think so.
I think that one of the first bands doing the covers like Limp Bizkit, Orgy, I think that that totally starts the trend, and there you go. It's kind of
And
like,
would you agree, Tim, that the bands that did it earliest got the most mileage out of it, but as time went on, it was less and less effective?
yeah, and I think the ones that are more effective as time goes are because the bands are already popular, like the
This is
Stones.
true. This is true. So maybe like if I don't know, maybe if the Apex theory led off with a cover of A Horse with No Name. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. It's late. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment right? Leave a comment if you liked it. If you don't like it, what other new metal topics should we talk about? New episodes every Wednesday at 12 p.m. We're getting really good at being reliable. And new reaction vids every Friday at 12 p.m. And we might start doing shorts soon, so be on the lookout. Find us at newbreed_podcast, Twitter and Instagram, newbreedpodcast at gmail.com, 267-297-4627 for all your audio, verbal complaints. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.